Hi, everyone, and welcome to another episode of The Starting Actor. I am Vinnie Horst, and on this channel, I talk about coming up in the film and TV industry. As an actor that is learning the ropes, I want to share some of my experiences with you. So if that's something that seems interesting, then stick around and maybe subscribe. All right, well, today I have a special guest with me, Michelle Shaw. Hi, Michelle.
Hi, Vinny. Hi, everybody.
We came to know each other through acting class. And we recently worked a scene together for about, 8 weeks, I think it was?
8 weeks, yes.
At the Actors Studio of Orange County. And we kind of went through a bit of a transformational process together. And I think the end result was wonderful. And I'm so proud of not only Michelle, but also of the work that all of our classmates did. It was such a great class, and I wanted to share it with you guys, my fans, I guess. And I wanted to bring Michelle on and to congratulate you, Michelle, because you did a wonderful job, and you were a wonderful partner. So thank you.
Vinny, you know what? I want to thank you for being the generous actor that you are, and you brought out a lot of energy and made me want to work harder. And your, I guess the word is tutelage, or your guidance, or your expertise, whatever you want to call it, was very beneficial for me. And as an actor, or up and coming, or starving
Starting,
starting, whatever you want to call it. I appreciate working with people such as yourself to help me grow into my skin, my character, my person, my actor.
You are too kind, and you are making me blush. Thank you, Michelle. I do appreciate it. No, it was a great experience. And so today's episode is going to be, we're just going to talk a little bit about the scene. We're going to set it up. We'll tell you about how the work that we did to create what you will see at the end, which is the final rendition of our scene as recorded on Zoom online when we did our final scene. So we're in the midst of the COVID pandemic right now, so we're not meeting in person. We're doing everything online. So, but you'll get to see it at the end. Does that sound good?
Sounds great.
Okay. So
and I just want to say that to say that Vinny and I have never really. Actually, no, we've never met in person.
No, that's right.
So the online thing does work as far as chemistry goes. So, I felt comfortable doing the scene with Vinny, and I guess it was a symbiotic type of relationship right now.
So as Michelle know, I'm actually a very, very mean person in person. Yeah.
Yeah, he's such a meanie.
Yeah. So no, yeah, it's a good point. I mean, one of the things that I was concerned about during this COVID business and working everything online is exactly as you were alluding to, that what acting really online, is it going to be weird? Yeah, it was weird for a little bit, but eventually you get used to it, and it really, as you said, we had chemistry. I think it worked, and we'll see it in the final product for sure. It didn't start out that way.
It did not start out that way. It was a little rough.
We ended up that way.
It was a little
rough. All right, so
rough.
let's set up the scene. So the scene that we did is in approximately the middle of a play called Two Sisters and a Piano, written by Nilo Cruz in 1991. And I play the part of Lieutenant Portuondo. And Michelle, you played Maria Celia.
Maria Celia.
He was a political prisoner that was confined to her home, and I was the guard, the person, the military officer that was charged with keeping her in her home and making sure that she didn't do any more bad stuff. So the play took place, or the scene, the story takes place in Cuba, 1991 as well, I think. It might have been written in 94, and this play itself was 91. And if you know anything about Cuba in that time frame, it's Communist Party was in power, still is in power, and it's very suppressed. I mean, according to the history books and the circumstances in the play, personal freedom wasn't particularly available, and any speech, any writing against the political views of the ruling party were considered not good, and Maricelia ended up going to jail. So is that about right? Did I get it all?
That you got it in a nutshell. Yes.
Yeah, perfect.
We don't want to give everything away too much. We want them to watch.
Yeah.
We want them to kind of watch the reel till the end, beginning to end.
Okay. All right. Fair enough. Yeah. Don't give. I probably did give away too much. So let's talk about then, Michelle, what it is that the work that we went through to, for those students that are out there that are wondering what a scene study class, because that's what we did, is it was a scene study class. What is a scene study class all about? So what is the work that we went through? So why don't we go through it together? So one of the things we did is we built our personal background stories and set our circumstances. And just to try to really embody, so for me as a lieutenant, what is it like to be a military lieutenant in Cuba in 1991, a part of a political party that is suppressing their citizens, and learning about all the things that were going on at that time and trying to internalize those things and really make them come out in the performance to whatever degree that I could. So
right.
What did you do on your part?
On my part, it's a little bit more, it's a lot harder, because at least with your character, you have something to really pull from. I mean, I guess I could pull from experiences of people from within that time frame and from within that place in Cuba and that political upheaval kind of thing. But as let's say as a lieutenant, it's a little bit easier, I thought, to find out what a lieutenant does, how the breakdown of the military in that type of environment. It's easier it's easier to research. It was a lot harder for me to find out what a manifesto looks like without having to read, like 100 pages of of somebody writing a manifesto to even think about why my writing as the character became an issue for the government. So, I can do more with, the politics and law, the economics of the time.
Right.
But
and I imagine you probably also spent some time considering what it would be like to be under house arrest for a number of years.
Right. Because
I don't know what that does to you.
Yeah, I mean, the closest thing that we have now is, COVID, but that's not necessarily anything close to being, imprisoned in your own home just by saying certain words or certain, rallying certain people, the common person. And that was a lot harder for me. So that had a lot more to do with the daydreaming, which, it's still also difficult, because how do you daydream being a political prisoner?
Yeah.
I can possibly daydream, how becoming an officer or, in that situation, but we don't really know a lot of, at least I don't, not that we, I don't know personally who to look out for.
Right.
Regarding manifestos.
Did you replace some of that with some as if work, which is, so for example, it might be, I might feel as the character as if Vinnie went through such and such circumstance in his own real life, and that would help inform. Did you use some of that type of technique?
I used some of that, but like I said, I think as a new actor, don't be discouraged, because there are times where I was, because it doesn't seem natural or comfortable thinking of an as if moment, as if what would happen, as if this is this or this is that. It's not normal for me to think that way.
Practice, for sure.
So, but I think that the skill that we've learned at school or at the studio is to be very helpful in expanding my imagination, my emotional range, my just creative, thinking.
Yeah.
I mean, to me, that's the most impressive piece of skill that I think have learned being an intermediate.
at that class. Yeah, so that's a great summary, because I think what Sonia's our instructor at the Actor Studio in Orange County. It's the first time I've had a chance to work with her, and it was a great experience.
Great.
What she asked us to do is to really dig deep. I mean, we were together for 8 weeks. The first 3 weeks, I think it was, of in-class discussion and homework, and there was homework, paperwork, and Googling, and internet searching, and reading
pages and pages
pages of notes.
Pages of notes.
Really try to understand all these things that we talked about, the circumstance, and both the world in which we lived, the characters lived, and also the world inside of our own minds and our hearts and our bodies. And I think that was for me, you said, was the most interesting thing that you learned. 100%. It was a great experience to a degree that I have never done before.
Right.
I've done lots of work. I'm like, but not like that.
No, I've done a lot of daydreaming at work.
a
lot of that. So, but not to this extent where you actually have to physically put yourself in a place. You could be sitting in a chair, but you have to imagine what something smells like in that time period, or like the dirt floor, if that's where your scene is. It taking all your senses in and then actually bringing them to life in your head. It's the most just mind-blowing. It
sounds even still at this point I'm still early learning how to do this acting thing, but it sounds ridiculous. Frankly, it sounds like, what are you guys talking about? What is that business? You can smell the earth? Really?
Yes.
But yeah, you do. You
do.
It feels unnatural and it feels weird, but you got to work your way into it. And I think that there were times in our scene, Michelle, where I had goosebumps, because I felt whatever the emotion in that moment. I felt it, and it was real. And that's what you're working towards, is the smell of that ground.
And you know what might be ironic is you may have felt that because that's what you saw, but it's completely not what I felt. So that, I think, is the art of acting in itself. Oh, excuse me. And in that you don't necessarily, I think Sonia did say this once, where you don't play emotion because you can't really play emotion. Or was it Philip? No, Brett probably had said, like, if you're drunk, a lot of drunk people, or as a drunk person or an actor trying to portray a drunk person, you portray not to be drunk. So like in certain situations, it's like the opposite of what you feel, it's completely mental, but it's great. I mean, you thought I was making you feel like a certain way, where I know that moment, I know when that happened, I had an itch on my foot. I think I told you that. My foot was itching.
Don't give away the secret.
That's what it was. And then, distraction also was the case, because I'm a thinker that thinks and thinks and thinks and thinks and cannot get away from it. So I do appreciate your distraction to kind of help me get back into focus, which is kind of completely mental in that sense.
Yeah, keeping that connection.
Yeah, so it was a great experience, and yeah, I there are moments like that you gave to me as well, where I'm like, is he really looking into my soul right now? And that's the thing that came back in certain places, and it was, but yeah, this is what circumstances, and it's the process, and that's what makes me want to continue with this journey, even in this COVID world that we have. We find a way to get there, and with people like, we're like fangirling here, our girl, whatever. But Vinnie, you did help me a lot in that situation. So once again, I appreciate you.
Well, and I appreciate you. It was a wonderful experience. So without any further ado, let's let everyone see our intermediate final production of Two Sisters and a Piano by Nilo Cruz. Yours truly, Vinnie Horst and
Michelle Shaw.
Michelle, before we let everybody go to see that, where can they find you? If somebody wants to book you, to find you, to give you work, where can we find you on social media?
Oh, you know what? I do have a website. It's live. I do. Oh, what is it? Oh, it's michaelashaw.com. So it's well,
I'll put it on the
you'll
screen
put it
for
on
everybody.
there. But yeah, it's a live website, and I
Perfect.
have stuff in there, and I have the scene in there as well. So,
Perfect. Great.
so
All right. Well, thank you, Michelle. I appreciate it. I will see you again in class.
thank you. I'll see you in class. You guys have a good time. Have a good weekend.
Do you always carry my husband's letters with you?
No, I brought you this letter tonight because I thought that you might want to know about his trip to Sweden.
Okay, what about his trip?
I don't know. These lines, they lend themselves to more than one interpretation. You know what I'm talking about. He writes about photographs that he took in Sweden, something about them being sad and gray. Do you know what that means?
I don't know. They say northern countries are, what, sad and melancholy.
You sure it doesn't mean something else? Because he also writes about objects that he bought on this trip. They seem to have gotten lost in the mail. A picture, an old book on butterflies. You sure your husband's not trying to tell you that he's having trouble getting you out of this place? Is your husband trying to get you out of here into Sweden?
What do you want, Lieutenant? I mean, what do you want to know? I mean, just tell me. I mean, I'm standing here, listening to you, thinking if this is a new game. I mean, is that even his letter? Or is this a new trial I'm supposed to endure?
I'm sorry. Okay, I want to help you. Why won't you let me help you, Maricelia?
What can you do? We both know what's in those letters. You know everything about my life. That was my last hope. Yeah. What would Sophie and I do in Sweden? We'd probably look like two out-of-season tropical palms.
I don't think that you should leave the country when you're released from this house.
I never thought exile was the answer. What would I do here?
You're needed here. And I'm not just saying this just because I've had a couple of drinks in my head. I am all for change too. Just like you. That manifesto that you wrote about perestroika?
Oh, it got me nowhere, Lieutenant, nowhere.
It wasn't the right time. But now, the country's starting to open up just like the rest of the world. And things are going to change.
Please.
No, you listen to me.
No, I prefer not to talk about it. Okay, all I did was say change, individual rights, and a little bit more freedom on a piece of paper. And what happened? Okay, my writing became suspicious. A mob threw rocks at my door, 2 years in prison, and now I'm locked up in my own house. So, please, just...
I believe in what you wrote. Maricelia, I'm with you. Look, I came here tonight wanting to... No. I wanted to come to some sort of agreement between the two of us. You and I, we treat each other with...
I stopped thinking about many things.
Yeah, so have I. I've stopped trying to understand why I find myself in this house, why I'm willing to read you these letters, I've given up trying to understand. You know very well that I am risking my skin. I want to help you stop waiting.
I love my husband, Lieutenant.
Yes, I know. And I love you for that. It's how I met you. I love everything about you. I love the way that you write, the way that you talk, how you think, how you see the world.
If you're leaving, Lieutenant, I prefer you leave out the back door. The head of the neighborhood committee is standing out her window.
That's all right, Campinera. And thank you. Would you allow me to take your radio for you before I go? I really would like to fix it for you.
If you insist.
Have a good night.
Lieutenant!
Yes.
Bring me a letter tomorrow. And I want you to read to me the whole thing. We'll go ahead with our arrangement.
Tomorrow then.